Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a second time around today. We had our other talk this morning at 10:30 a.m. and now we are having our usual Sunday talk at 6:30 p.m. I'm one of your two hosts, Nor Kyle.
And I'm the other one of your two hosts, Mushtaq Ali, the one who is not Nur Kyle.
Yes, and
I'm her faithful sidekick.
Yeah, I definitely felt like I was powering through it this morning.
Hero sidekick.
My hero over here. Yeah.
Sidekick.
Anyways, you can be my sidekick today if you want. This is kind of our part two from this morning's talk. They're definitely intertwined. So if you've had the opportunity to see that or to participate, that may be beneficial. But even so, it is worth being here now. It's always worth being here now, isn't it?
Yeah,
Being
that's
here
why
now.
we're Baba Rum Racing.
But hopefully we will be able to weave these two talks together. Do we have any announcements this evening? I don't think so. Not yet.
No.
Not yet. Nothing new yet. We are still living the Airbnb life for those who did not have that conversation with us this morning.
Which is why instead of seeing the beautiful artwork that I usually put up, you see our pathetic little kitchen.
At least we have one, right?
We have a pathetic little kitchen.
Yeah, we did not really have a kitchen in our past place, so I can't help but be a little grateful for that. So without further ado, we are going to be talking about, we're going to be revisiting hazard again, but definitely in a more constructed context, I would say.
Yeah,
Plus,
the idea of universal hazard.
Yeah, and the dark side of the force, quote unquote.
Force, yes, very important. The force has a dark side.
We've had even more experience with hazard since a few weeks ago when we talked about it somewhat informally. So we will be able to draw from our personal experience as well as talk about this academically. So good times. Where should we begin?
Where should we begin? The general idea of universal hazard can be summed up in the scientific phrase, shit happens. No matter what you do, shit happens. The shit that happens is intertwined with the very fabric of the universe. There is nothing that exists that does not have a particle of hazard attached to it.
Particle of hazard.
A particle of hazard. I just made that up.
I can dig it.
Yeah. And that means that we are always subject to hazard. Now, Mr. Bennett, who was the one who really expounded on this idea, said that even God is subject to hazard. And everybody went, gasp, how can that be? And for me, it was very simple. It's like playing Parcheesi. You know what Parcheesi is?
I'm not super familiar with the rules.
Yeah, it's a board game and it has rules. And everybody who agrees to play the game agrees to abide by the rules. God created the game and God is sticking to the rules. And the rules say that there is hazard. What is hazard? Hazard is the ability for things to go all pear-shaped at any moment for any reason.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes this is good and sometimes it's bad. If there were no hazard, there would be no freedom. Think about that for a minute. If there were no hazard, we would be in an entirely deterministic universe. We would have no choice about anything. Hazard gives us choice. The fact that things can go pear-shaped in one way or another, that gives us the opportunity to experience free will. And just because things go pear-shaped, it doesn't necessarily mean that things will go pear-shaped for me. It means maybe things will go pear-shaped for you, and I can take advantage of it. But everybody gets a little bit of that. You do not get out of this game without landing on go to jail to continue with the gaming.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, throwing in a little Monopoly.
A little Monopoly, yeah.
So
RTC doesn't have a go to jail spot.
good to know. I
Yeah.
want to play it now. This Parcheesi you speak of. So we could think of it as the spice of life, right? It's that unexpectedness. It's that thing that you cannot plan for that is going to sneak up on you no matter how much you've tried to think ahead and future pace and all of those good things we talk about when it comes to preparing for what can go wrong. There are things that you may not be able to prepare for.
Yes, as a matter of fact, that will be the case. And hazard will, from time to time, demonstrate to you that you are fundamentally completely helpless.
Yeah.
And you cannot get an undo. There is no taking the dice and doing a free roll. And supposedly, Mr. Bennett said that backgammon, which is a very, very old game, was designed to teach this. And I think it probably wasn't backgammon. I think it's a much, much older game than that. We know it now as the Royal Game of,
Yes.
which is Sumerian, and we actually know the rules to it and how to play it more or less. But you have to follow these rules, and it's a chase game. You're moving around the board, and the idea is to go through the entire loop and get your pieces off the board. You move by throwing dice. The dice are the hazard. The dice introduce hazard. So no matter how good your strategy is, the dice are from time to time going to really help you out, and from time to time, they're going to really screw you up. And I've played this game hundreds of times. I would teach another person how to play it any chance I got, and we would sit around and throw the things. They actually have pyramidal dice, which is like really cool for me. I love it.
Pyramid shaped dice.
Yeah, they're actually tetrahedrons. And you roll it, and you'll have two choices, 1 and 0. So it's a binary game, which is pretty sophisticated. But anyway, I digress. But the thing is, in all the times I played the game, it always comes down to, in the middle game, you may be totally winning and the guy only has one piece left and you've completely boxed him in. But by the end of the game, you're usually down to one piece each, and you're going madly towards getting that piece off the board. And it always works out that way, no matter how it starts.
So it's a struggle.
It's a struggle.
No matter how good a player you are,
Yeah.
because of that hazard, you're going to come up against things that you cannot strategize your way out of.
Yeah, all your best strategies can go to hell in one throw of the dice.
Don't we know it, right? So yeah, that's I mean, I'm vaguely remembering our conversation about this from a couple weeks ago, where we talked about like the tower card in tarot and all of that. So for a deeper discussion of those things, I think,
I'll throw up some links at the end.
yeah, but one thing we really want to make clear is that hazard has its place.
Yeah, without hazard, there is no creativity.
Yeah. Yep. No change, no evolution, no renewal.
Yeah, if you think about it, every step in evolution has been created by hazard. You didn't have some fish who went, I think that I will grow legs. What a good idea. It was some, do fix that.
Just gonna close the shades.
There we go.
Really?
I would look very funny with stripes of sunburn down my face. And
I just saw it creeping up our faces toward our eyes. So,
yeah.
all right.
So
Fish.
Yeah, the fish doesn't go, I'm gonna grow legs. The fish is minding his own business, swimming through the primordial ocean, and some cosmic ray hits the right cell in the right way to knock things askew, and the next thing you know, legs manage to emerge from its progeny. And it's that weird. And some people could say, oh, it's all accidental. I'm pretty sure it's not all accidental. I think a lot of times it's accidental. And sometimes there's a nudge.
A nudge.
A nudge, yes.
Is this intelligent design territory?
Or stupid design. It really depends on what the nudge does.
That's legit.
Yeah.
All right. So this nudge, I think, might be an interesting. Are we ready to go in that direction?
We can go in that direction.
Do we have any questions so far or thoughts so far?
Yeah. Yes, Osama.
Yes, thoughts. I love this new relationship with hazard, right? Seeing it from the perspective of without it, there isn't freedom, as you said. Without, it also encourages creativity, or without it, creativity is not possible. So in a way, for me right now, as I hear you express that, it's like I want to welcome it, not as like, asking for something crazy to happen or anything like that, but it's that fear that we spoke about this morning.
Yeah,
it starts to dissolve as I see this new form this new relationship with hazard, as you describe it. It's freedom quality, creative quality. That's beautiful. Thank you.
And I think those are great connections to make to this morning's talk. So thank you so much for that, Osama. I think that's a critical way of holding this concept of hazard in a way that isn't rejecting necessarily, because as we can tell you, sometimes hazard sucks. Like, it destroys all your plans and it breaks your heart and it leaves you so terrified. And yet, how do we grow and mature without facing hazard?
So let me tell you about my week.
Yes, it's his story time now.
Yeah, this is actually almost 3 weeks worth of stuff now.
Yep.
So we're getting ready for the trip, and I'm minding my own business, and I'm going through my YouTube channel. And I have some people that I watch on a regular basis. And one of them is an attorney. And he is constantly coming up with interesting cases. And it just so happens that the case that he's coming up with to talk about is about a guy who discovered that the expiration date on your passport is meaningless, depending on where you're going.
Well, it was a woman who is going to travel to China, I believe, right?
Yeah. And it turns out that many countries insist that your passport be valid for 6 months after the day you leave the country. I did not know this. I'd never heard of this. And
they want you to have like a buffer between when your passport actually expires and when you leave the country you're visiting, because they don't want to be stuck with you, basically.
Yeah, even though I would be fun.
You would be fun to get stuck with.
But so as it turns out, my passport would expire 3 months after I left the countries that we were going to. And the countries that we were going to, specifically Denmark, has one of those 6-month things. And we would be landing in Denmark. And what happens is you get to the airport and they look at your passport and they say, no, you can't get on the plane. Sorry. And then you're stuck there and there's nothing you can do. So, of course, I do some checking and I find out that if I go through a passport agency, I can get a renewed passport in 1 week if I'm willing to pay the price. The price was about $1,000. I kid you not. So I go, okay, there's just enough time. I can do this. I go through, I throw down the money. I dig into my savings sock, the sock in my sock drawer that I have all my money stuffed in, and I get it and pay it off. And I go and get my new passport pictures at FedEx, which takes hundreds of passport pictures a month. And the guy takes my picture. It looks just like this.
Yep. And
Exactly like
yeah,
this.
I remember
Yeah.
you being like, he was a really nice guy.
Yeah, and
He
took
was
my
very
picture.
helpful.
So I send all the papers off and I get an email back from the State Department. And they say, that picture you sent? You still have your glasses on. We can't use that picture. The picture has to be without glasses, unless you have a medical reason why you must have glasses. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, shit.
It's like 10:30 in the morning.
It's, yeah.
And he checks his email just casually, and then you hear him go, swear words,
Yeah. Imagine really bad language. Insert bad language here.
And this was after we thought we had everything like figured out.
We'd done our due diligence.
And we were feeling like, okay, everything has been really tough these past few weeks, but we're getting everything sorted. And now we just have to wait patiently for this passport to arrive so that we can travel to Denmark and then to Sweden together.
So I realized that 1, the passport's going to be late and I'm going to miss my flight. And 2, I have to get this taken care of right now. So I have new pictures in the mail, overnight mail, in 2 hours.
Less than that, but he was out the door.
I was
almost
out the door.
immediately. Yeah.
And I didn't go back to the place that I got the original pictures. I went to a different FedEx place because I realized if I had saw this guy, I would have probably had harsh words for him. And of course, so I get those off. Then I call the passport company that's doing this and I say, where's my passport? And they say, we don't know. And I say, you sent me an email that said that you were checking through my papers to make sure everything was in order. And you missed this. They say, no, we actually don't do that. And I say to them, I have an email from you that says that you did do that. So are you lying to me now or were you lying to me then? And for several days, nobody knows where my passport is or what its status is. The second thing that I did is when I realized I was going to be late with this is I changed my flight. I sent her at the time she was supposed to go. I changed my flight so I would have arrived a day late for the seminar, for the workshop.
Yeah, this is where our stories intersect in that. This is where I'm like, oh no, I better start planning on what I need to do to begin this retreat.
Yeah, we're going to look at this. Right now, we're going around the outside of the Enneagram.
Yeah.
And then we're going to look at the moving lines to really see what's going on.
Yeah.
So for days, nobody knows what happened to my passport. It was supposed to be in my hand. It was supposed to be delivered to me by overnight FedEx. I paid for it and everything.
They
jerked me around.
Told a story about how awesome their service is and
Yeah,
how they were going to go the extra mile.
yeah. Let it just be said, there is going to be consequences for them with this. Because they took a huge amount of money from me and I lost even more money changing my flight 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I realized that, I was in a state where hazard was going full blown. And
Full tilt. Yeah.
the only thing I could do was to do my due diligence to make sure that if that passport arrived, all my ducks were in a row and I could do what was needed to be done, no matter what. So I did that. And the passport didn't arrive, and they couldn't tell me where the passport is. They couldn't even tell me if it was in process. I call the State Department, and I finally, after an hour and a half on hold, get hold of somebody who says, "Oh, let me check this out for you." And then he comes back 5 minutes later and goes, "I'm sorry, I thought it was just my terminal. All the computers in the building are down, and I can give you no information on this." And I'm like,
By the time this is going on, I'm in Sweden, just trying to stay chill, realizing that, oh my God, I'm running this retreat alone and he may or may not come. Like, yeah.
yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm thinking of him being home and alone
Well,
and
not
having
home
to.
though. I am staying in a
Yeah.
cheap motel.
So when I say home, I mean in the US without any kind of
we had
support
already
from
let
me.
go of our really quite comfy Airbnb, and I had grabbed a hotel, or a motor inn, if you know what those are. Kavita's over there laughing. Yeah, this is like Motel 6, but with a bad paint job. Though I have to say, it was run by a Sikh family, and even though it was old and shop worn, it was impeccably clean, and their service was wonderful, and their bed was comfortable.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had that going for me. So every day I am trying to find out what's going on. And then finally, I realized it doesn't matter if the passport arrives. I cannot get to Sweden in time to even come home with her.
Yeah. I mean, at the end, we were talking about like, well, at least we'll have, we had a weekend in Denmark planned to just kind of decompress, wrap up before we had to leave from Copenhagen airport. And we had planned to at least share that together.
Yeah.
If nothing else. But even then, yeah, I mean, I changed my plans for that because I didn't want to spend the whole weekend alone any more than, neither of us did.
Yeah.
So.
And so finally, she gets back. On the day that she returns, I get a call from my mail place. I have a private mailbox, so I can get deliveries, with a street address and everything. And they say, "Well, you've been waiting for that thing from FedEx, and that hasn't arrived, but I have something here from the State Department that arrived today." So I say, "I'll be down there in 20 minutes. And I really quick walk down there. One of the reasons I stayed in this cheap motel was because it was a 20-minute walk from my mailbox. And it was my passport. And it was in a US Postal Service envelope. And it was 3-day delivery instead of overnight. And if they had done it correctly, I would have been able to meet up with her.
He would have been able to hang out with me in Copenhagen.
Yeah. Instead, I lost all of the money for my tickets because it was non-refundable. Plus all of the money for changing the flight all those times.
Yep.
And you look at that and you go, what's the lesson in this? This is the moving lines part. So there's a couple of things going on. One, it's a shock point for the school.
This is Enneagram stuff for those who are not in the
I
loop.
think everybody here has at least some of that. A shock point in that this is
Levita says, to quote John Wick, consequences.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes. Yeah, so those will be forthcoming
Yeah.
for sure. So anyways,
So anyway,
moving lines.
moving lines. So the school had a choice at this point. If we had threw up our hands in the air and given up, the school would have probably died.
Yeah, I mean, if I dropped the ball
Yeah.
on the retreat, or if you weren't able to hold things together on this end, who
Yeah,
knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
So it's a shock point for Noor, because all of a sudden the universe threw her in the deep end of the cosmic swimming pool and said, you got to step up. You can't just dog paddle. You got to full on do the breaststroke.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this was full contact,
Yeah.
full engagement. I mean, I really,
Full contact teaching. I like that.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm still flabbergasted that I pulled it off, but
I'm not. I knew she could do that part.
yeah,
That part I wasn't worried about.
yep. You were
Yeah.
definitely cheering me on every step of the way, even when your heart was hurting, given that you
Yeah.
had to be left out of all the good stuff. that
Yeah,
was
I mean,
happening.
I can't even begin to describe how much I was looking forward to this trip.
Yeah. I mean,
One, I love Sweden. Yeah, Sweden is where half my family came from. I have a really deep connection to it. Two, everybody at that place was somebody who I really wanted to hang out with.
mhm.
I mean, I was so looking forward to that.
Many of them, like they're all our students, but
Yeah.
these were people that he had been working with.
Yeah, people who I had a really close connection with, and
Yeah.
people who we both have a really close connection with.
Yeah, I mean, now I certainly feel that way.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, I know there are people coming who are having doubts about how this is going to be if Mushtaq isn't here. And I'm grateful that they decided to come anyway, decided to be good sports about the whole thing, and decided to be curious about what could happen and who might be there and what they might get out of it, because that gave us an opening to create this really wonderful thing. But it is certainly not anything anybody planned on the way
No.
it panned out.
And so for her, she had to step up and be the teacher. And she has all of the skills to do that. Every single one of them she has been polishing for years, but she's been hiding behind my it's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like he's been protecting me too, knowing how fearful I have been.
Yeah, I should have just kicked you out.
I mean,
months
the
ago.
universe kicked me out of the
Yeah.
nest for sure.
So that's on the positive side. I go, this happened so that she could find her wings
Mhm. Yeah.
once and for all, because now there is no doubt.
Right. And as much as all of us were feeling, deep sorrow that you weren't there, at the same time, we were like, this had to happen, because how could I have been pushed as hard as I was?
Yeah, without that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there was that part. And she rose to the occasion.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked hard. There were definitely 4 a.m. nights because I had to pull everything together as it was happening. So my teaching was very experience based, given that what I was teaching was playing out in my own life in real time, including hazard, including the Enneagram process, including fear and hope, like we talked about this morning. It was very visceral, and that created a very powerful opportunity to demonstrate how everything we talk about actually works and why it works. So it was intense.
Yeah.
And I guess in part we have Hazard to thank for all that.
We do, without a doubt. Doesn't mean that it was easy, and it doesn't mean that there were not dark forces at work.
Yeah, and some of it, I mean, life isn't fair, but there were definitely parts to all of this and continue to be parts to all this that do feel unfair.
Yeah,
And
but the thing is, life is unfair. Life is
Exactly.
totally
Yeah.
unfair. A lot of times it's unfair to your benefit.
yeah, as you mentioned earlier, yeah.
Yeah, life can be unfair to your benefit, and we eat that shit up. But when it's unfair against your benefit, it's like, what was me?
Yes.
Yeah. So, she did that. Now on my side, I'm put in the position of being utterly helpless.
Yeah.
I can't do anything. I cannot reach through the phone and strangle the person on the other end. I cannot blow anything up because it's too far away.
You can't turn to me for hugs.
Can't turn to you for hugs. Nope. And I mean, it was really hard to be. I knew what I needed to do, which is let go, let everything be as it is, and do all of that. And it's been the longest time since I've had something this compelling that I wanted to do.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, I can't even describe how much I wanted to be there. And it was like the universe goes, no, I'm sorry. In this particular scenario, you don't get to be there. No matter what you do, you've done your due diligence. We see that. We appreciate it. And no luck. And so the only thing you can do in a case like that is let everything be as it already is. And day-to-day life, that's easy. This was not easy. This was really not easy. This was like,
Yeah. Like you could almost sink your teeth into it.
yeah, if it had flesh, I would have ripped its throat out with my teeth. But it didn't. And all I could do was everything that I could possibly do to make it work, and then let it go. And so I managed to do it. I haven't been that constantly angry in a long time. It was like the universe was conspiring to piss me off.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example, small things. My watch, the battery died. I needed to replace the battery. So there's a Jared, right? And
Jeweler.
a jeweler. And I looked up, I mentioned the name because if you live in America, don't ever go there.
No Jareds.
No Jareds. And so I look on Google, and the first name that comes up for watch repair is Jared. So I know where they are. They're right by where I've been doing my shopping. So I pop in there and I say, I'm met at the door, like this.
Right. I remember this now. Yeah.
Yeah. And by this smarmy Asian dude. And he's like, can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, I need to get a battery for my watch. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, we no longer have batteries. We ran out of batteries. And I'm looking at him and going, I know for a fact that there's about 6 different size batteries for watches. And you're telling me without even knowing the make of my watch that you have run out of all of the batteries. I felt like I was a black guy because that's what happens.
Like you were being profiled.
Oh yeah, it's like he was giving me the bum's rush, and I walked out of there going, no, I took a shower this morning. My clothes are clean. I don't look bad. I look casual, but this is California. You're allowed to look casual. I mean, think of Steve Jobs, right? I was dressed better than Steve Jobs. And it's like, I literally felt Like when I've talked with Black friends about how they felt with being pushed out of stores, and when I think about the native side of my family, I never got any of that because I look like a white boy. But it's like you go into a jewelry store and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And it was that. And I was pissed. It's like, this dude is giving me the bum's rush. What do? Do I make a scene? No, because if I make a scene, I'll probably end up getting arrested. So let's not go there. But it was 100 little things like that.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, on top of this struggle, you have all this stuff that is wearing you down. And we've talked previously about how being able to maintain composure, right? That takes energy, that takes effort. And when everything is just like whittling away at your ability to keep your resources up, your energy, your focus, your willpower, your self-discipline, and that's just being chipped away at. And that must have been just all the time, that whole week.
Yeah. And it was a matter of wake up in the morning, let go of everything, go out, be irritated, let go of that, be irritated again, let go of that, continue to be irritated, let go of that. I mean, I had to buy a little pocket knife because I had no way to open packages. I gave it to her because it's a nice
Have it now. Yeah.
And this kid behind the counter looks at me and says, do you have ID? And I say, for what? And he says, we need to make sure that you're over 18.
Someone's cracking up. So is Lavina. Yeah.
Yeah, and I looked at him and I said, do I look like I'm under 18? Well, we just stood there and stared at each other for a moment. And then he took my credit card. Yeah, and it was nonstop. And it reminds me, I'm usually the guy that all of that shit misses me.
Oh, you also didn't have an ID because usually you use your passport.
Yeah, I used my passport
and
for an
that
ID.
was somewhere floating in the postal service. So
yeah, I had my bus pass for LA, which is issued by the County of Los Angeles and has my picture on it. And I force people to take that as my ID. I said, look, this is government issued ID right here. There's my picture. This is me. That's my name. And I got everybody to do it, but it was weird. So that's what hazard can look like. And part of that, I look at it as that there were two forces working. There was the force of goodness and light and angelicalness that is making sure that Noor becomes recognized as a great teacher.
the angelic flicking me out of the cocoon.
Flicking you out of the cocoon. And at the same time, it felt like there was the dark side of the force, the Svarnaharno that we have talked about, was just working because, you know, we could all go back to sleep. The nine-sided circle could completely collapse. I could go to sleep. She could go to sleep. You guys wouldn't go to sleep, but everybody else would. And we're working to do something important in the world. And if we had let ourselves collapse into whatever kind of crap was going on, we could have failed.
How would you guys trust us if that had happened? I honestly, I think you would have wanted to give us the benefit of the doubt, but you would have been like, when rubber meets the road, they can't really.
Yeah.
How are
Where's
they living what
Mushtak?
they
He's in
teach?
jail. He stabbed this smarmy Asian guy 47 times with his own tie tack. You know,
Or, you know, everybody keeps talking Nora up that she's a teacher, but like she gets the opportunity to do it and she just crumbles.
Yeah.
That could have happened. It could have happened.
Yeah, or they're blaming everybody else but themselves for all of the shit that happened.
Yeah.
And that would suck too, because, you know, we had to own this.
Yeah.
And so this was a test. Inshallah, we passed. Or we're still passing,
I
because it
mean,
ain't done yet.
Yeah, every time we keep saying, I think this was it. It hasn't
It
been
ain't
it. So we're still writing this out and trying to be humble about it.
Oh, it's easy to be humble about it.
It's humbling, that is for sure. So I don't necessarily think we're out of the woods yet, even with all of this. And we have to be very
Yeah, we're definitely
conscientious
not
about that.
not out of the woods, because
Well, we're here.
we're here.
Yeah,
yes.
and this Airbnb, this is not home. We don't.
Yeah, and this is a place where they lied to us.
Yeah.
You know, bad shit happened. We spent a lot of money to get to this on the basis of the description, and almost nothing about the description was true.
Yeah.
And we're not in a position where we can go someplace else and demand our money back, even though that would be a hassle and we'd probably have to sue them to get it back.
So we're going to be a little annoying about this one. Typically, having been on both sides of the Airbnb thing, we are
I have never
very
in my life
understanding.
written
but-
a bad review to an Airbnb. I've been very, very fortunate. I've had really good hosts across the board until now.
Yeah. So I see Cherie is unmuted. What's up?
The comment of saying that you did your due diligence, I've had that thrown back at me to say, no, you didn't. And I thought about it and I thought, okay, it's like, oh, the passport thing, I'm just going through all of that now. And fortunately for me in Australia, my passport had expired and I went to go and get it. And I had to go through, they don't give you the forms. You have to go and print them yourself and then do it online and then go get pictures and the whole thing. And it only took a week and it only cost 344 Australian. So I was flabbergasted because they said, wait 5 or 6 weeks, it should get to you by then. It was there in a week. I was blown away.
Go ahead. Put it in.
The Australian. So I'm very grateful for Australia. But we did have all that drama during
Yeah, friends
COVID.
of mine who live outside this country are looking at me and they're like, what?
I could get that done in a day.
I could walk in there and walk out with my new passport. And it's like,
Yeah, but the
American-
whole
the American passport system is completely screwed up.
well, I've never heard you be complimentary about any government system there. So but the having enough time on the passport, and every time I've been trying to use my flight vouchers or tickets and things, they always have that, do you have this amount of time on your passport? And so it's to have not have that in your list of checklists that you have to do when you even buy the ticket, because we can't buy a ticket if we're going to a place without at least 6 months on the passport.
Yeah, this didn't, and they asked us, they said, you know, give us your passport information. And so I gave them both of our passport informations, including expiration dates and everything.
Nothing was flagged.
And they didn't say a word.
Yeah.
So it's,
You know, and if it had not been for this random video, I would have never known. I would have ended up at the
I didn't
airport
know.
with them going, sorry, you can't get on the plane. And a lot of people, at least here in the States, has never heard of this.
Yeah.
it's common here. It's because they always talk about it, people being sent home because they say they don't know about it. Even here they say it, but it seems to be more commonplace here that we travel so much that we always ask each other, you got enough time on your passport? Got enough time on your passport? It's kind of a give. Yeah,
Yep.
but all
They had done that. If I had known this, I would have had plenty of time to get this done.
Oh, I know. We had been playing this thing for
Months.
9 months to a year.
Yeah.
So it's just, we definitely have said this to people who were like, oh my God, I wish I said something to you, but it's not on them. And
No,
we know
it's-
that.
Yeah, and I'll go back to what you said this morning in the talk, because I've already listened to it, conscious surrender. And
Yeah.
I've passed that to my coach. That's why I was a little bit late. I have a tennis coach that I see, and his dad was murdered 3 weeks ago.
My God.
Holy crap.
And he said it was Mexican style, because he's Mexican, and it's over in Mexico, and you think, oh my God, and it's just random thing that someone tells you, and you just think, wow, and he's kind of reeling from it, and you just think, ooh, that's another thing. And he said all these other things that had happened, that had happened here, and various car accidents and so forth, and you just think, that's life. I said, in the process of waking up and being aware of everything, you are aware of the bad things more often when bad things seems to happen after a bad thing, but there's good things spacing that out, but you just don't see them, and then he goes, you're right. I said, this is just life. And so that conscious surrender of what is reality was such a powerful statement that you made, Nor, that I actually have passed that to another friend who I spent 2 hours with. She's in palliative care, and I hadn't seen her for 3 weeks. And I walked in, and she's a shadow of herself because she can't eat. And I said to her, oh my God, I said, you're a shadow. And then I made a joke, and I think, oh my God, I've just put my foot in it. Like, she's dying. She can't eat. She's so thin. And yet I was able to inject, well, this is your reality. This is what it is. Don't waste your energy trying to make everyone else feel better. Yeah, it's crappy. It's horrible. And being stoic and being able to at least take small joys. And so her small joy is that she eats food in her mouth and then has to spit it out because she can't process it, but she needs the taste. Yeah. So a simple curry for lunch, and so we're trying not to watch her because it's kind of embarrassing, but she's chewing it to get that taste, to have that sensation, and then she has to spit it out. And then she goes, that was good. I had to laugh. I said, well, you made short work of that, but she hasn't, but, you think about that and you think, my God, all the things I'm whinging about, there are these other people around me who are just like, whoa, one thing after another. And you think, I'm trying to do all the right things as much as I can. I'm trying to do the right paperwork. I'm trying to eat properly. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do this. And that's just life. That's the work. And you can't give up just because you get knocked down. You dust yourself off, you get back up. You think, okay, all right, you got to look at your options. At least you got a roof, but it's a hard thing to feel happy about. But yeah, and it always is. It's nudging you in different directions. Every time you're thwarted, you think, well, that wasn't meant to happen. Because it exactly happened to me years ago when I was the assistant teacher, landed in Melbourne, and then the head teacher, he's wiped out with the flu, can't even get off his hotel bed. And so I had to teach 30 people for 3 days solid by myself. I went, oh my God, how can I do this? But those people who heard your teaching, Nor, had a perspective that was unique to you, and it would have been wonderful to hear and witness and experience, and it helped those people step up and get involved too. And that sort of thing, it's a blessing in disguise. That's all I can say about that.
Not even in disguise. It was obvious that was part of the equation.
Yeah, but you were, at the time, you what? Yeah.
And she did her due diligence in being a teacher.
That's right.
And that includes, as she said, staying up at 4 o'clock. She would call me and ask me about certain things that she was not quite
I made a point to push myself as far as I could go with
Yeah.
my own ideas and my own homework and stuff. And then I was like, okay, I just want your feedback on what I have.
Yeah. And she
Yeah.
always had it right before she even asked it, which was kind of fun. to
Right.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows that it's paying off in that everything is fitting together, and I'm also adding to what we have. So that was nice too.
Hmm.
But
And that's the power of this whole experience. You have much more than you give yourself credit, and the same with me, because now years later I'm running my own business, I'm running my own workshops, I'm running my own classes, but that didn't happen overnight. And sometimes the little chick needs to be flicked out of the nest.
Yeah, in this case, it was like those seabirds that get thrown down the side of
oh
the
my
cliff.
God,
Yeah.
and they bounced down the cliff face. Yeah, it really was like that. But Sheree, you're absolutely right that sometimes it's hard to even know what we know until we get put in a position of having to demonstrate it.
Yeah, and I hope you're actually enjoying the fact you get good. That was good. You got to own your brilliance sometimes. You
Yeah,
just, that was
I-
okay. That was
I-
actually
that. Yeah. And that was something what Elle said before the ball got rolling on the week. We were talking on the Sunday before the Monday it started, and he's like, you know, we need to make it fun. And by that he meant let's have fun doing this, even while it's hard. And I think we did a good job of that. And I look back feeling, I mean, to some extent, really smiley and satisfied, even though it was there were awful moments of horror and heartbreak. It was necessary. I don't want to say it was worth it. I guess it was worth
It
it,
had to
but
be worth it.
yeah, I wish it could have happened in less painful ways, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it would have been nice, but at the same time, I used all of that free time I had to study. I
Yeah.
have a year's worth of topics for talks now. I read 7 books at least. Yeah.
You got to do a lot of walking and kind of recalibrating your self-care and
Yep. Walking 4 or 5 miles every day.
yeah. Things that he can't necessarily do when I'm here, because I'm not able to do that kind of walking. And
Yeah. Well, I can do it without you. It's just not as much fun.
exactly. Like we kind of need to recognize those places where it's good to be doing our own things in ways that are contributing to what we do together. That's really important. Yeah.
Yeah. So recovering from the plague.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in 2 different ways.
Two
One,
different ways, considering
yeah.
we had it. Yes.
Yeah, we that's the other thing is we started this trip with both of us coming down with COVID. What fun.
This little escapade into Hazard. Yes.
Yeah, that was the first thing.
The first thing was finding out we were being displaced.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, the first thing was my little tiff with the government.
Yeah.
And then finding out we were going to be displaced, then getting COVID, realizing we had to move out even sooner than we thought, and then all this other stuff snowballing.
I almost forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was the thing that started it out. She had a tiff with the government, and then our landlord had a tiff with the government, and they basically condemned his property.
Mhm.
Said everybody has to leave right now. And so
They were on the verge of condemning his property, and we didn't want to be cause for that. So that's why.
we didn't want to be part of it in any possible way.
But I do know that part of it was like, oh, it is not going to help anyone for us to be here.
Yeah. Because that was part of our plan, is that we could relax when we
Yeah,
got back. and
we
have
were
our
thinking of
place.
being like 3 months, 4 months down the road,
Yeah,
perhaps.
once we found the perfect place. So everything got exploded.
It was like the universe totally did a temper tantrum table flip,
Yeah.
and the board game pieces went flying everywhere.
And so here we are, we're having fun.
We are having fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we are managing to have fun, even if we have those moments where we're like, what the ever loving hell is going on here? And why do we have to deal with it? But we do have to deal with it. It doesn't matter. The why ultimately does not matter. We still have to keep moving and respond rather than react, and all of that good stuff.
Well, you're showing us how human you are, and being human, you are like us. It's not just something you say. And so the way you're conducting yourself is the work of showing us how to conduct ourselves during a hazard. So this is great.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been my teaching methodology for the past couple weeks, is just
Yeah.
like, let it be
Sadly,
real.
yeah, sadly,
Yeah.
we are not the magical perfect master.
No.
We were, but we ain't. We are the human, just like everybody else, imperfect masters. We are the imperfect.
Yeah,
And you
but
need patrons. So lucky patrons to keep this going.
that would be
Yeah.
excellent. I mean, we have some work to do around
Yeah,
income streams, due diligence
Yeah.
wise, but
yeah, we've been very lax on that because we've been able to do well without saying to people, hey, donate to us. You know, we've been able to give away most of this for free and just live off of our private work with people.
yeah. I see Levita's unmuted.
Yes, Levita.
First, I'm so sorry you had to go through all that and are going through all of that, because I'm just tired and I'm just hearing it. So I can only imagine how you guys are feeling. One of the things that kind of struck me is when you were talking about these small things that were bothering you as you were going through the big things. And I thought, yeah, because you're usually pretty laid back about all that stuff. But the small things become big things when you're going through a really hard time, you know, to where, you know, I'm thinking of that poor man, and he probably deserved, he's probably laundering money, if it makes you feel any better. That's why he bum rushed you. But, you know, like to walk into someplace and immediately be made to feel unwelcome. Yeah, I would have felt stabbed too. You know, I'm glad you didn't, because I don't visit people in prison. I'd had to write long, chatty letters. You know, but
It would have been
is,
a very welcome and appreciated letter, but thankfully,
Better to just
yeah,
he'll get his.
but I was just thinking, like, when you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, the beast is in the cage, but you can see the bars bending as it's trying to get out. You know,
yeah.
oh man. But I'm glad you got through it without any undue loss of life, you know, from anybody, because you're going through that. Noor's trying to fly as she falls out of the nest.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I'm not the least bit surprised you did well, Noor. Not at all.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, neither was I. She's the only one surprised.
I am shocked and not quite appalled, but shocked for sure.
It's funny because if you were talking to somebody else who had your training, qualifications, and experiences, you would say the same thing that Mushtaq and me and the other people who were at that event would say.
You would?
I think you're right about that. I mean, sometimes I've been able to pull myself out of my own, you know, do the whole self-observation thing and just observe how, you know, what am I being so hard on myself for, and why am I tripping myself up? But it is so compelling to do that.
I know somebody said to me once, it's like we tend to discount the stuff we can do because we can do it.
Yeah, there's something to that too. Yes.
you know, and it's like, listen, if they had dropped me into that, it would have been like, look, the 9-sided circle is no more. Because I have zero training, no experience, no resources, nothing. Mushtak, you're dead, done. You know, Mushtak be in jail somewhere underneath the cellar, you know. But I also don't have any of the experiences, training, or resources. You know, so I'm not surprised you did really well.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian, what do you think? You're so quiet, and you got to witness a whole bunch of this.
You had a front row seat. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, as someone who was at the retreat and lived through it, I kept thinking how hazard gives us the opportunity to demonstrate the proof of our practice. And on the last night where Mushtak did a video call with us, you know, the way that they were able to handle it and keep it together was just super inspiring, and you know, verification of things that I've already you know, had a sense of. So I know it was a very tough thing to go through, but I'm, you know, confident that you know, in the long run, it'll, you know, be a huge boost for the school and for a lot of people.
Thank you so much, Brian. Yeah, that was something that came up, was like, I think people were curious to see how we would engage with one another, and how, because we finally had Mushtaq zoom in on a call with us. And so all of us were sitting around the dining room table and he's on my laptop screen. And some people were wondering if I would melt down and like be like just not able to hold like the position of confidence and stuff like that.
Pshaw.
Yeah, well, I knew that at that point we had it together, and it was just a matter of accepting what was in front of us. And that was not always easy, but doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doables all were required. We're not required to have things easy.
Well,
Thank God.
and I think that's a testament to the quality of our students too, is that they are willing, as you all have demonstrated this evening, you are willing to meet us where we are and to look at us as human beings and learn from that, whether it's, wow, you know, I might have handled that a little bit differently, or wow, that's really inspiring. And we don't have to put ourselves on a pedestal of aloofness and complete unengagement and non-attachment in the classical sense, where it's like, oh, they just really don't have any care about anything, do they?
Yeah.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah,
This
it
is
would be
not
great
that.
if angels came down and gave me a new passport.
Because
You know, but
you had been sitting there monk-like.
yeah, because I've been sitting there going, oh,
Yeah, that's
no angels, no passport.
Mm-mm.
Damn it.
Yeah.
So that's our story. That is an example of hazard, and both the side of hazard that creates something new and the side of hazard that can blow up in your face, because there was definitely the potential for that.
Mhm.
And I think so far, knock on the plasterboard, that we have managed to avoid that.
Mhm.
Not to say that that will continue to be that way.
We will continue to be challenged.
Yeah.
We are being challenged right now, as you all know, given our living situation and the fact that we don't have exactly an idea of how things will
Yeah,
pan out.
we're not sure where we're going to be in a month.
But we do feel pretty
I've been
confident
staking out bridges.
staking out bridges for us
Yeah.
to live under.
Yeah,
Live in a shack down by the river
yep,
or the bay, as it were.
yeah,
Here.
where we can pick up Wi-Fi from Jack in the Box.
Oh my God. Excellent.
Yeah, we will be doing these talks from the Jack in the Box parking lot.
Well, that's the kind of dedication it takes.
Yeah.
No joking. Is that sense of, well, whatever we have to do, we will do it. And I think given everything that we've been through so far, we're doing okay on that front. We are showing up.
Inshallah.
Yeah. And we will continue to show up, inshallah, and hopefully you all will continue to show up alongside us.
And we can all have Jack in the Box tacos, if nothing else.
Yes.
The absolute worst tacos ever made in the history of tacos were made by Jack in the Box.
No comment, just avoid. All right, so do we have any other thoughts or questions? Like, who haven't we heard from? James?
Have we heard from James?
Not
We can hear
me
from James
yet.
again. We can always hear from James.
Well, think about hope and fear. In my own experience, has been the destruction of false hopes and stupid ideas to the point where I've often wondered if my life could continue. But then sometimes I think God loves a fool, because something happens that pulls me at some.
Okay.
Sorry, what?
I said he made a lot of them, so it must be the case.
Okay, think about the most recent or the most extreme period from 1999 to about 2007 was horrible and chaotic and had a body count. And it finally ended with me, let's see, my junkie girlfriend had done a runner with her latest enabler, leaving me owing a friend $900. Feeling mortified because I had $20 to my name. I couldn't pay the money. It was a result of my own stupidity and self-serving blindness. And I was letting down a friend is a thing I have an obsession of not doing. I felt terrible. And this is where it's either incredible coincidence or God does love fools, because that afternoon I realized the situation. I got $25 to my name. A friend's expecting about $900 back from me tomorrow for rent and all this other kind of stuff. Miserable, felt terrible, felt like I just hit bottom. Went out for a walk, and found about probably just over $900 in the street in the middle of the day on a main street. It was like, I'm not literally.
Yeah,
In
I've
fact.
seen things like happen before. A little message from the universe.
After the consequences of my own stupidity had been pushed in my face repeatedly. So that's what I thought, oh, okay, well, and this is what I've found. Life for me has been sort of, over the past couple of decades, has been trying to adapt to normal society and realizing how foolish and stupid I've been. But then little bits of mercy come through at the end when I think there's no hope. And so it's also been very much an excavation and exposure of my own fear and my own anxieties when I thought I didn't have any, or whatever particular bullshit I was deluding with myself at the time. So it seems to be chiseling away false hopes or false ambitions, then getting a glimpse of something real and reliable. That's very much a leap of faith, that last bit, but And especially as I've had people around me whose lives just seem to be demolition derby, ending in premature death, and in all kinds of horrible ways, and often not brought upon themselves, but as the result of others. And I'm waffling a bit here, but that's feel like sometimes something's trying to tell me, don't give up, have hope, even when it seems like you're doomed. And that, being able to relax into that doesn't come easy for me. So it's bouncing between hope and fear. If I hadn't been into the whole idea of like mindfulness and such since when I was like 12 years old, I wouldn't have got through a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into the stories because they're horrible. But yeah, that's all I can sort of say at this point that really relates to hope and fear. And trying, when I do have this hope that there is some benign aspect to the universe, to not then become lazy and assume it's going to roll out the red carpet for me all the time.
We feel you. Yep.
Yeah, I hope that made some kind of sense and wasn't too much waffle,
Yeah,
but that's basically it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've touched on this idea of mercy, and I can speak to that. I feel like so much mercy was shown to me last week. Even as I said earlier, this was one of the most intense and challenging experiences of my life thus far, because it addressed such core fears and insecurities of mine and felt so unexpected. So this whole thing about mercy showing up when you least expect it, when you feel like you don't even deserve it,
Mm,
I definitely
Yeah, the best mercy is
appreciate
the mercy
that.
you get when you don't.
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
But then that leads me to wonder why other people around me lives have been ripped apart. Sometimes I can say, well, their lives were very risky to begin with, but in other cases, it's been just someone's life devastated by horrific predatory forces. It's yeah, and why myself, who I don't consider to be a particularly good person, though I try to be, why I sort of at the last minute get these little reprieves.
Mm.
I don't know.
Well, hazard is a crazy thing, and it will really wail on a person out of nowhere, it seems. So we will not ever have all the answers when it comes to, that phrase, why do bad things happen to good people? And
I know the answer to that.
yeah.
It's because bad things happen to good people.
Mhm.
That's why.
Yeah.
Good things happen to bad people. Bad people happen to good people. Happen to bad people.
Mhm.
It's all
Yeah.
a mess.
Sometimes a lovely mess.
Yeah, we get stuck with it.
Mhm.
It's okay.
Thanks, James.
All right. Anybody else want to say one last thing? Osama, speak to us.
Yes. One last thought. As you guys were talking, a short ayah from the Quran came to mind, which is I think it goes like, you may hate something and it's actually good for you, and you may love something and it might be actually bad for you. So there's this hazard or this experience that, oh, I hate this is terrible. And sometimes in few months, sometimes years, we're like, oh wow, that was a blessing. And sometimes it's like from both of you sharing the the story of your experience, it kind of has these both elements, right?
Yeah.
The element of Noor of, oh, I hate this, but it's actually good. There's like the good essence. And your story, Mushtaq, of I wanted this so bad. I just wanted to be there so bad. And it's now taken away. It's like they're both right
Yeah.
there. So yeah, that thought just came to mind as a conclusion to
Yeah.
or how it came.
Yeah.
Unless you're a dervish. You all know that story, right? It's a good place to end.
Yeah, okay, let's end with the
So
story.
there's this village and they're experiencing a drought. And they've tried everything. They've brought the ulama in to make prayers. They've got the shamans in to ring rattles. Nothing has worked. And this dervish comes through and they say, no, this must be our last hope. And they go up to him and they say, can you help make it rain? And the dervish thinks for a moment and he says, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can. And he says, bring me a bucket of water. And so their last bucket of water, they bring it to him. And he takes off his cloak and he starts washing it. And they're freaking out because he's washing his cloak in their last bucket of water. He gets it all wringed out and he starts hanging it up. And the moment he puts the cloak on the line, it starts raining. And they said, how do you do that? And he said, oh, God and I are having an argument.
As it sometimes happens.
Yeah, and there is profound truth in that story beyond the superficial.
So we'll leave you with that.
Yeah,
You've heard all about our adventures. You've shared some of your own. And hopefully this will give you a sense of, not everything happens in how we imagine it ideally should go. And
but everything happens as it happens.
yeah. Yep. And if we can consciously surrender to that while doing our due diligence and all of that stuff, we just get through it, inshallah, God willing. Yeah. All right, everyone. I think we're going to wrap up. We can go on Brady Bunch mode, and here we are.
Yeah.
We
So
can
wave
wave to
goodbye.
each other, wave to everybody watching on the replay, and I guess we'll see you next weekend. Take
That's
care.
right. Bye.
Bye.